Well, exciting times. UFC back in Toronto, September 21st, Saturday night, UFC 165. Jon Jones taking on Alexander Gustafsson. First things first, you talk about Jon Jones. He's now the pound-for-pound best because of Anderson's loss. When you watch Jon fight, do you get the sense that you are watching greatness, that you are potentially watching the greatest of all time compete?
Well, that's one of the exciting things that we have here in Toronto, being able to host him. It's the third time he's fought here in Toronto. And when I watch Jon fight, what I'm really excited about and really looking forward to is his unpredictability. And as much as I have no idea how, I have this. There's a certain sense that when he wins, or if he wins, I just don't know how he's going to do it. He's done it in so many different ways that I didn't expect him to be able to pull off, but he does. And that's really what is so fascinating and interesting and intriguing about him. But he's got his hands full with Gustafsson. The first guy who's sort of can almost literally look him in the eye and sort of match him reach for reach. So it's going to be fascinating.
That's the thing. We can't take anything away from Alexander because the vibe and the feeling that I get from Alexander is the same one that I saw in Chris Weidman when he took on Anderson Silva. He could care less that he's fighting Jon Jones. He's fighting for the title, and he's so determined and motivated to prove not everyone wrong, but himself right.
No question. And there's a side of Alexander, and you've obviously interviewed him very many times. He's quiet. He's very comfortable in who he is. I think he would, deep down inside, would love to be, the first Swede to hold a UFC championship. But I think a little bit different than Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva. I don't think you're going to see Jon Jones, do the a bit of the kind of dancing around and come to me kind of thing. And I mean, that's going to be a great fight in the fall, as I already said, at Christmas time, right after Christmas. But anyway, this one of the weekend, I can hardly wait.
A lot of news coming out of, obviously, Australia, New Zealand, one of your territories. Bigfoot, Mark Hunt, but the market there is beginning to explode. Give us a little sense of what's happening on the complete opposite side of the planet.
Well, it is. It's an exciting time for our sport and for the UFC in Australia and New Zealand. So I went to Auckland for the first time in my life and had a chance to meet with some of our business partners there and check out a potential venue for our first show in New Zealand. But across the entire country, the UFC has really received a great welcome, and we're getting this much better foothold. We've held 3 events in Sydney, one on the Gold Coast. This will be our 5th event. We've got great partners across the entire country, and this card that we announced, the UFC Fight Night in Brisbane, which is Hunt versus Bigfoot. There's some other guys on that card that you didn't mention. We got James DeHoon is fighting Shogun, and just announced that Soa Palali is going to fight Pat Barry. And the latest one that came out was Anthony Perosh is fighting Ryan Bader. So, I mean, those 4 fights alone are going to be awesome because they're featuring, 4 Aussies, or at least, Kiwi-born Aussie-adopted fighters. It's going to be fun.
That's a free card.
That is a free card. Yeah. So Sportsnet 360. It's going to be on your Friday nights. So because it's Saturday morning in Brisbane, Friday night here. So Sportsnet 360. Happy birthday.
I'm looking forward to that. All right, Canada, let's get back to the country here. A lot of rumors circulating about what's going to happen in Montreal, either in April, Quebec City in April, March. You mentioned tentpole events in the past. What's the latest in Quebec?
The latest in Quebec is, obviously, it's a critically important market for us. It's one where we've been underdeveloped, and we plan to continue to invest and put resources into the province. There's every chance that we'll have 2 events in the province of Quebec next year. And if we had 2 events in the province of Quebec, you're a geography major, you can probably figure out where they might be. But we haven't made any announcements. There's most likely that the tough finale is going to be somewhere in this country. And if I was a betting man, and your French was good, it might end up being in that province. But until we make an announcement, we'll have to keep it guessing.
Vancouver, they're ready to go. Calgary's always asking for an event to come back. Zoof has been to Edmonton. UFC hasn't been to Edmonton. They are all over me on Twitter. The Maritimes are all over me on Twitter. 2014, and you're looking at with these fight nights that you have to get these shows booked. Is Canada going to be one of those countries that are going to have many fight night events?
You know what? I think you'll see that. We've historically, for the last 3-4 years, have had 3 fights a year, and they've vacillated between Toronto, Montreal, and a Western, sort of city to be named later kind of thing. But I could see us having 4 or 5 fights next year in Toronto, or at least in Canada. And once you do that and recognize that we're going to get 2 or 3 pay-per-views, there's going to be a couple of fight nights that are going to be in different places. And you've talked about Quebec City, you've talked about Halifax. I'm actually heading out to Saskatchewan in November to continue our conversations with the provincial athletic sports minister and the deputy minister there about how they're moving forward with provincial province-wide regulation. So that's going to be on our radar. You mentioned Calgary. We want to go back to Calgary. Dana's made a commitment. I've made a commitment. We want to go back to Vancouver. You know, it's I wouldn't say it's an embarrassment of riches, but we're fortunate that we've got some great markets in this country. We've got great venues that perfectly suit our sport, and it's an exciting time.
I haven't talked to you since Winnipeg, and we forgot to mention Winnipeg. Is that an option as well? Because I think it is. I mean, I think we had a great time there. The show was fantastic, but I don't know the behind-the-scenes stuff with any of the commission stuff. But to my understanding, everything went well.
Everything went extremely well. The folks at the MTS Center were first class. It's a great city. It's a great fight town. The entire community embraced us and embraced our athletes, absolutely. But there's a side to me that says we've had this conversation before, Joe. You have to sort of manage your supply as well. And people talked about, boy, you were really successful in selling out the Rogers Center back in 2011. And my answer to that was, well, Paul Beeston has to sell it out 82 times. I only had to sell it out once. So there's that kind of mentality that comes to saying, when do we go back to Winnipeg? When do we go back to Calgary? When do we go back to Vancouver in some of these other markets? But for sure, we will be back in Winnipeg. Will it be in 2014? Probably not. But in down the road, absolutely.
Is this the first time I've seen you since you took a shot at my attire? I believe that was in Winnipeg. Am I correct?
But it depends where the last time you were wearing shorts. So it could have been Winnipeg. Actually, it might have been in Vegas for the Weidman Silva fight.
But in Vegas, I can wear them.
It was probably in both places. But I think you're sartorially speaking, I think you're quite besplendid.
Tom Wright, Director of Operations for UFC Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Any other markets eventually?
All the good Commonwealth nations where they make decent wine.
The Vino with Tom Wright. Thanks for watching.